Welcome to episode 7 of If You Can, I Can, dedicated to all the inspiring Islanders out there. Today's guest has been an island resident for about 18 years or so. She moved here from Beaufort, and her roots go back to Mississippi. She is a total badass. She's a competitor, a leader, a healer, and all-around inspirational person. I invited her here today because I wanted her to share some of her roadblocks, but more importantly, how she's grown and fought through them, and also give some just great advice. Welcome, Laura Fromdahl.
Oh, thank you. I'm honored to be here.
I'm so glad you are. So you and I first met about 18 years ago when you and Jeff were my physical therapists.
Yes. Gosh, it feels like yesterday.
I know. And then we grew to be great friends. Our kids have grown up together. And I just think the world of you. But I want to tell you, one of my favorite things about you is how you bring humor to every situation. And there's always, I just know when I'm going to be around you, there's always a level of the unexpected that's going to happen. And that is, I say that in the best way. And that is literally my favorite thing about you.
Oh, that makes my day. Thank you. Our families have kind of grown up together.
They have. They really have. It's been a journey, that's for sure. So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, and just a little bit about what led you to Hilton Head and what it's been like to be a business owner here and things like that.
Okay, I'm from Jackson, Mississippi. Where from there? Great family, a lot of fun. Moved to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Got a degree there, and then went to physical therapy school. Got married, and then we got the opportunity to move to Beaufort and work for a physical therapy place there. And then we decided, actually, I think I was a month away from having my second child, and Jeff came home and said, "I've quit my job." And we're
great timing.
Yeah, I was like, okay. And we're going to open up our own therapy place. And we did, and we grew, and then we sold it. And now we help manage, and we've got 3 clinics here, and he started, 5 or 10 in Georgia, all up the East Coast. So I do more behind the scenes stuff now. I don't treat patients anymore, but it's been a great life.
Yeah. So curious, what made you choose physical therapy? Were you a college athlete or just?
That's a good story, actually. So I grew up riding equestrian, playing basketball, water skiing. Went to college with the intent to go to medical school. So after I graduated, got my degree, took the MCAT. That was my path. My younger brother became a quadriplegic, jumping on the trampoline. I know you've heard this story.
Yeah.
So that kind of changed my life. I stayed with him in the hospital because I wasn't allowed. That's kind of a funny story. He couldn't really call for the nurses. He was 14 at the time, and I slept beside his hospital bed for 6 months.
Wow.
They wouldn't bring a chair in because I wasn't allowed to be there. I was like, I'm not leaving. So I had the night shift. My mother had the day shift. My father and my sister were actually packing up a house in Texas to move back to Mississippi. So I was able to go to all of let me back up. Nothing against doctors, but when they came in to spend time with him, it was more like a 5-minute deal. They were talking to themselves, trying to figure out his very complicated position, and it kind of turned me off a little bit. But I did go to all of his physical therapy appointments. His day consisted of PT, OT, respiratory therapy, lunch, and then the same thing again. Mm-hmm. And his physical therapist changed his life. I mean, they treated him great. They made him laugh. They taught him how to live again. Mm-hmm. And so I came back and I was like, all right, I want to go to physical therapy school. And I had to do hours in the hospital and kind of go back to school and get a bunch of prerequisites. And that's where I met Jeff. And then it was all from there. And sadly, right before we moved here, and what probably got us to move out of the area was that he passed away from complications. So I think that's when I met you at the moms group.
Yes.
When I had just moved here, and I was like, oh.
And I didn't know, at that time, I didn't know anything about your brother or what you had been through. But, it's amazing. Like, it's that situation so tragic and awful in every stage of it. I'm sure. I can only imagine. But how it's led you to your whole future. And it's really amazing when you can look back at something so awful, but then see positives that have come from it,
Definitely puts things into perspective.
Mm-hmm.
You can feel sorry for yourself.
Right.
And, having Liam being diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, it was a shock.
And Liam is your younger son.
Is my younger son. Mm-hmm. It was a shock, but at the same time, what would my mother have given to have a son with type 1 diabetes versus one that was paralyzed from the neck down?
Yeah.
So it really puts things into perspective.
Wow, that's very powerful. So moving to kind of now, tell me a little bit about your journey to get where you are now, sort of that path in between your physical therapy and you're here now, and all this just incredible stuff you've done since. You're a USA triathlon coach nationwide with Tri-Strong Coaching. You're founder of Fit Chicks Move. You've had a podcast, obviously a physical therapist. You compete. And you're a mother of two. I don't know how you do it all, but I just along that way in that path of exploration and growth and entrepreneurship, I should say, and coaching, all of that. Has that been smooth sailing? Have there been some ups and downs? What's that been like?
Well, I think if it was smooth sailing, I'd probably get bored. And I think that's probably why I have so many different businesses going. But I was the child that wanted to stay outside all the time, that had too much energy. My parents didn't really know what to do with me. And that just is still here. So I don't think things through a lot of times. I don't overthink it. I just do it. If there's something that excites my very curious mind, if there's something that excites me, I try it. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it works. Sometimes for every business I've started, I've had, 5 that didn't,
Yeah.
So I never stop moving. And I think that's the key. I do take time to reflect and look back, but the whole Fit Chicks thing was kind of tongue in cheek when it started. I had started a couple of running groups and when I was younger, it wasn't crazy bad, but I had the braces. I wasn't supposed to be able to walk right or even run.
You had the leg braces? Oh my God. The corrective ones? Okay.
I mean, it wasn't Forrest Gump bad, but, it wasn't great. And so I think that's when, I think it was 7 or younger. And that was the first time that I realized that just because someone told you that you would never be able to do anything, that you didn't have to believe them.
Absolutely.
You could just do it your own way. Mm-hmm. So I'm not a great rule follower when it comes to that, but I'm not afraid to take the risk. So the Fit Chicks thing started, and I realized that I was on a plane once, and I was having trouble trying to figure out priorities and how to mother the right way. And, I'd listened to the flight attendant that day. For some reason, I wasn't reading a book. And that's what motherhood is. You have to put the oxygen mask on yourself first so you can take care of your children. Mm-hmm. When you're in a plane, it's about to go down. Your first instinct is to put that oxygen mask on your child. And that's not good. So I kind of took that to a different level with my friends and the women that I met. And I was like, if we could take better care of ourselves, then we'll be better off for everyone. And the Fit Chicks kind of grew, and it was kind of an excuse to have a girls' weekend that was healthy and to travel. And, we did all kind of different shenanigans. And then guys wanted to join. I was like, well, I got to change the name. And you wouldn't believe some of the names that people threw out. But we that rhymed with Fit Chicks. But we ended up with Tri-Strong.
That's for a different podcast.
We ended up with Tri-Strong, and I do have athletes nationwide that are from beginner to Ironman to Kona finishers. So it's a side job. It was a hobby that turned into a job passion that I just love.
That's so cool. And you compete yourself.
I do.
What's your favorite race or?
I liked Ironman because people thought I was crazy for even thinking about it. So of course I had to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I like all the distances.
Yeah.
I think a sprint triathlon is just as hard as an Ironman because it's sprints.
Mm-hmm.
You're all out. Ironman's a little bit easier, but recently with the COVID, they kind of canceled all the races. So we started an open water swim club where we'd meet at Coligny and swim 3 times a week. And it got to a point where we had people coming from out of town to join us.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what's been keeping me busy lately is the open water swims.
Yeah. So all these, what I'm hearing from part of what you're saying, you always have ideas, you always have new things you want to try or things like that. But in that, are you more of a person who is all about the journey to get there? Or are you more of like, I've got a destination and nothing's like focused on the destination?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that gave me pause. I thought about that. And I came up with, I choose the destination to give me the goal. Mm-hmm. Because I don't want to just do things to just do them. I want to work towards something. But it's really the journey that makes all the difference. Mm-hmm. It's the people that you're actually making the journey with that can be life-changing and makes a lot of fun. So I think I'm more, it's a combo.
Yeah.
But definitely the journey. I mean, so for example, all of our races were canceled. We have all this, our Puerto Rican Ironman was just canceled. But our group's been training for it since August. And now we just pick something else. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's the people. I think.
I imagine that's difficult to lead through. Like, I don't know. I just think like you have certain standards that you're so used to. I mean, everyone's had to become so creative and all of that. But I can only imagine in coaching others where you can't all come together and do your training or however you do that to get your
tough.
Races and everything, just how to keep everybody motivated and I don't know, creative ways to.
Had to reinvent it. In fact, I just developed a virtual open water swim around Hilton Head Island that we're starting in a week.
And what's the name of that?
Swim Hilton Head Island. And it's virtual. You can swim anywhere, log your miles, and you've got from February 15th to April 30th. So that's cool. Kind of regrouped everyone. We've got people doing virtual races and run races, and cycling is tough, but I'm hoping that'll keep us motivated. And then there's some races I think that'll happen in the fall.
Okay, that's exciting. So hopefully it's going to make the turn and everyone can get back together. I'm curious, what is a key strategy that you give to your athletes that say the average person could use, just apply to their daily life?
So I have something that I coach them through called hard and easy. Okay. And I think there's some parallels there with just about everyday life. So when I first start working with someone, especially a beginner, they might have 3-4 days off, rest days. And then as they get more accustomed to it, start training for longer races, I have to beg them to take their rest day. And because they love it so much, they don't want to rest. And then, that causes an injury or burnout. So I told them you have to make your hard days hard and your easy days easy, or they'll all end up mediocre. So, and then likewise, if you make all of your days too easy and you don't have some hard ones, then your hard actually becomes mediocre. So you never actually get that, that level up. So in everyday life, if you don't do the hard things, then you won't excel. If you don't take the day off, you don't have an easy day, then, you're mediocre. So it all kind of balances out. You've got to work hard, rest hard.
Right.
Otherwise, you just sort of, your perception of hard, which isn't really hard, changes.
Yeah. And I would imagine, in what you're saying too, both athletically and like you said, to life, it's like when you challenge yourself, you really can experience incredible growth, whether it's, in your fitness level or in your, work level, personal, spiritual, all kinds of things. When you kind of double down and challenge yourself, and then, but in the same, in the balance of that, allowing yourself some room to breathe,
Right.
And reflect. And sometimes that's a hard balance, but I like the way you talk about that, both in training and then applying that same idea, to life. I can't remember how many years ago it was, but you were riding your bike on the Cross Island.
Yes.
And you were hit by a car.
I was.
Hit and run. And tell us about that. What happened, kind of what your recovery was like, and how that has perhaps affected you since.
So I learned a lot. From that. I had been riding with a group in the evenings. I decided to go out by myself middle of the day. And it was an accident. I know in my heart that they didn't mean to hit me. And thank God for the former Marine that was working in the toll booth, because he came out and gathered me up and moved me out of the way and helped me get to the hospital. But it took me, I had a bad concussion. Mm-hmm. Nothing was broken. It took me about a month in bed, 3 or 4 months recovery. And as I was recovering, I realized, being a horseback rider, I'm like, I got to get back on. I got to get back on the horse, because I have an opportunity here. The whole island, and what I love about this island is that everybody was so supportive and so aware of what was going on. I was like, I have an opportunity here to either scare people to death or nobody's ever going to get on their bike again, or I can get back on. And I clearly need to be in a group, and I can get a group of girls together, and we can do it in a safe manner. But in that time down, because of my energy levels, I couldn't do it. I mean, I had stitches everywhere, I had a hole in my face. I learned I had to learn something. So I started practicing Kali, which is a Filipino knife fighting technique. Yes. So,
that's right. That's one thing I forgot to say. She's jujitsu. You're trained in jujitsu too, right?
That kind of led into once I healed up, I started doing Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, and I had to step back while I was training for Ironman a little bit because it took so much time. But my goal is to be a black belt before I have grandchildren, so in the next 10 years.
That is cool, and you'll do it. I have no doubt you will do that.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I'm just going to make sure I always have you by my side.
I'll be safe. And I've had a lot of fun teaching girls some self-defense before they go off to college. It's been rewarding in that way.
I'm sure that's great. So going back to what you were saying earlier, you initially began training females and then expanded into training males as well. And I feel like there's such a difference in mindset often between men and women. I'm curious what when facing like a challenge, or they just are completely out of gas or whatever, what do you see is typically the difference between, say, the mindset of a man versus a woman, the way they face a challenge like that?
So women, there's more of an emotional component, and that's where the physical therapy background comes in, I think. And you just have to look at, hormones and that sort of thing and really build them up. Men, it's more of they don't want to take a day off. They go. It's the hard, easy conversation that I have more with my men, that you have to rest to be able to do a hard day. Otherwise, you're going to be mediocre. Other than that, ability-wise and how I coach them, there's not much of a difference, which is, I think, what's kept me so intrigued with triathlon, because there's so many different components. A man might be better at running, and a woman's a better swimmer, so I'll actually have them train together, and they help each other out in their weaknesses.
Interesting. Yeah. Do you see that men will perhaps say, or be more inclined to sign themselves up for a more difficult race or Ironman or something, even if they're underprepared versus a woman only signing up for or, committing to what she believes she's prepared for? I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, so I guess that makes me an outlier. But yes, I think that's probably, women like to, it's more of a social component. They like, I think the exercise is great, the races are great, but it's really the social component that bonds them and makes them excited about it. The guys won't admit it. It doesn't start out that way, but then they crave that social as well. I have to say I've had more girls do, and this is interesting, girls will sign up for races that they're unsure. They just want to do it for fun. They're unsure if they'll be able to complete it. It doesn't scare them. They'll do the goal. A man will only sign up for a race if he knows he has a good chance of, he's thought it through. He's done all the legwork and he actually thinks he can complete it. And then some of those guys, I have to say, all right, yes, but you can also do more.
Right.
So
interesting.
Yeah, I guess it's each individual. So.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So I know recently you shared with me that you began journaling and you told me it's changed your life. That's one of the things you said. And so I'm just curious, like, why? What has it done? Like, some people say it's a great mind dump. It's, all these things that we just let stay up here. You can kind of put on paper and be done with it. Or does it help you with like different commitments that you make to yourself? Are you more accountable to yourself? What are your thoughts on just what it's done for you?
First of all, I have to thank you because you gave me my first journal for my birthday last year. I'd never had a journal before. I just didn't think I was journal material. And so now it's part of my morning routine. I've not missed a day since you gave it to me.
That's
I'm
incredible.
on my fourth journal, I think.
That's incredible.
So I wake up an hour earlier. So I wake up at 5 and I journal for a good 30 minutes, 45 minutes. And I kind of do it, I like data. And I like trying to pretend like I'm a detective. So I guess, because I want all my days, I kind of grade myself every morning. And I want all my days to end up, at least I grade 0, 1, 2, 3, or 0, 1, 2. And then there's a -1 and a -2. And I want to at least be at 0. And if I can't, my goal is to be at 0 at minimum by the end of the day. So I'll go back and look, all right, what will help me get, above a -1. But I do a little Bible verse in there, and then I kind of set my intention for the day. And it's a little bit of a mind dump, but it's how I'd like the day to go and what I learned from the previous day that will make the rest of the days better.
Yeah.
So it's kind of all over the place, but it's consistent.
Yeah.
And there's a gratitude. There's like 4 or 5 things that I'm grateful for every day. And just that little bit, and then I go back and I look at previous days. That's how I end it. And I'm like, gosh, the days that I write 3 or 4 pages, I'm like, I wasn't at my best. How can I avoid feeling like that again? And then I'll go back and look at the data. How did I sleep? How much REM sleep did I get? What was my heart rate variance that night? How did I eat? Did I drink? So I like to go back and look at the data and then use it moving forward. And it's made a huge difference.
That's really cool. I love that. It's been educational and just a complete, that's part of the journey, right? Yeah. That's part of the journey piece. Yeah. The journey piece. So I was wondering if you'd share with us, what is the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Ooh, that's a good question. And it helps me, and it kind of helps with the way I look at the world. I like to look forward and not sideways or backwards. But right after my brother passed away, the Reverend was in the room. We're clearly upset. And he said, I want you to remember this. There are 2 words that you should never, ever say to yourself or even think about. I'm like, oh God, this is pretty important. And he said, if only. So that has stuck with me all of these years. And I don't think that way. And it's very helpful. There's no use putting energy and thinking about if only it had been this way. All you can do is learn and move forward.
That is really, really great advice.
It was very good.
I'm gonna tuck that one. I'm gonna tuck that one in and keep that for myself and share that. That is, wow, that's really, I love that. And then my closing question that I always ask every guest is, what advice would you give to somebody whose life was going about seamlessly and it just suddenly took a hard left?
So I don't know anyone whose life hasn't taken a hard left, first of all. So I imagine that it's everyone. And then secondly, I believe in, I kind of live my life thinking it very simply. I have to break it down. So it's choices. Mm-hmm. So I think we're all products of the 10 billion choices we've made along the way. So if this hard left has come from a choice that you made recently or in the past, then you own it and you fix it. Mm-hmm. If the far left came from something totally out of your control, then it's your choice. And this is part of what I do in my morning routine. I don't hope to have a good day. I don't hope that my day is going to be happy and great. I wake up and I decide my day's going to be great. Mm-hmm. It's going to be happy. So then no matter what happens, you've already made your decision. Mm-hmm. So it's a way of looking forward, I think, and taking ownership and control of your day because it's yours.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with that more. I feel like once you can get yourself to the point where you start thinking that way and you decide every day, you consciously decide no matter what you're up against, it's going to be a great day.
Yeah.
It's going to be a great day. That in and of itself is incredibly powerful to just making it a great day. And it's like any bump that comes along the way, you just can handle it a lot better because you've already decided. So that's great advice. I love that. I loved having you here today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. You have so much wisdom to share. And like I said, I think you are such an inspiration. And I'm so grateful that you are my good friend. And I just, again, appreciate your humor and wit that you bring to every situation. And we'll get you back here again to follow up another time. So I thank you all for watching today. And if you have somebody that you would like to nominate for If You Can, I Can, please text or call me at 843-368-1300. And now go out there, win your day, and just remember, if you can, I can.